Welcome, everyone, to the MMA Happy Hour podcast. I am Kyle Anthony, your host for today. We are talking UFC Vegas 108, headlined by Taira and Hyun Park. We're going to be breaking down 4 plays here on the show today. Now, listen, last weekend, we did not have a show. I was away at the beach with friends and family. Beautiful weather, got a little bit of color, feeling good. And it was also nice to watch Bryce Mitchell on the beach cash in our 5% max bet play. Nice winner there, but we got to keep it rolling. And this weekend, I've got client plays up right now. I have a 4% play as well as 2 other ones already locked in. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. And with that being said, let's dive into the main event of the evening between Taira and Hyun Park. Now, you got Taira sitting here at minus 355 on the comeback. On Park, we've got him at plus 280. Now, obviously, we know that Taira was supposed to be fighting Amir Albazi. Albazi falls off the card. Now we've got Park coming in here. And I do think there are some moving parts a little bit to that, which I kind of just want to cover here. And, it is a short notice fight for him, but obviously we do know that Park was scheduled to fight next week. Now, I do, yes, he had a full camp and all of those things, but definitely the change in the week could really affect, I think, Park a little bit here. It's not the end all be all, but you've got a situation here where these are professional fighters here. They are very regimented. They're very scheduled. They're trying to get their body into peak physical condition leading up to a particular day. And this is now, a little bit movement on that for him. It's only a week. I get it. But sometimes that is some of the more critical weight cutting and all those types of things start to go on. So that's one part of it. The other part is the fact that, you have Park, who was out there and he was preparing for a 3-round fight, and now you've got Taira, who has obviously nailed this date down, has been preparing for 5 rounds. And I do think that is going to have an effect in this fight, because the one thing that we do know a little bit here is the fact that Park may have a little bit of iffy cardio. Now, we haven't had to see it very much. The guy's gone out there and he's just knocking people out. So I do understand that part of it, but you have seen in any fight that's extended outside of the first round, that explosiveness does tilt down a little bit here. And I think maybe this short notice could also affect him a little bit here. Now, the other part here is the fact that, this is a big step up in competition. I mean, any way you look at it here, this is a massive step up in competition for Park in this spot here. He's 10-0. He's got that sexy undefeated record overall, but he has faced some of the low outside of the UFC, guys who have just absolutely terrible records, haven't really fought anybody. And even inside the UFC, there are a little bit of question marks there, where some guys that he's beat, just not really the highest level guys. Now he's fighting one of the more elite level flyweights in the division. And you look at it here, the guys that he's beating, not really UFC caliber. He goes out there and he beats Shannon Ross. Now, this fight here, if you go back and watch it, Shannon Ross is maybe one of the worst to do it. I mean, this guy is just not very good. Everybody's knocking him out. It's pretty much, if you get called to fight Shannon Ross, you're going to knock him out. The interesting part about that is the fact that Shannon Ross was landing. Shannon Ross was, prior to the actual knockout there in the second round, it was 50-47 in significant strikes. So Shannon Ross landing on you as much at a clip that you're landing on him, I think is a very bad sign overall for Park. I do believe Park is a solid fighter, but I do think he has plenty of holes in his game. And then his most notable win is over a very bad version of Carlos Hernandez, which he goes out there, didn't look like even Hernandez wanted to be in the cage in that fight overall. Now, stylistically speaking here, I just think Taira is better, is the more well-rounded fighter by far. I really don't think it's very close here when you're looking at it, and you are seeing Taira, who is really starting to elevate some of his striking. He's starting to look a little bit better. He's starting to tie some strikes a little bit better together behind some of these takedown opportunities that he's looking to do. Obviously, that's his main path. That's where he wants to take the fight overall. But, he's an elite level grappler, and Park has not seen anyone even close to Taira's ability for wrestling, his ability for grappling, and the relentlessness at which he's going to be pushing that type of pace. And that type of pace, I think, again, is going to have an effect on him if his cardio is not going to be there, but also the fact that outside of that first round, I think Taira is really going to start to pick up the pace, find more opportunities for those takedowns. And I think that Park is going to be very timid in the pocket. I don't think he's going to be that normal guy. You're going to see him who kind of marches forward, throws the big shots. He might, just because of the fact that, maybe he thinks, hey, I can't make 5 full rounds, so let me just go guns blazing. If I land something, I land something. But, that's, I think, a very much His only win equity, I think, is like some fluky knockout. But besides for that, I think Taira has some of the best back takes, out there right now. The guy is slick on the ground. He's opportunistic with his takedown ability. He's going to go out there, and I don't see Park being able to withstand all these takedowns. I think he's going to struggle. I think he's going to melt at a certain point here. And you've got Taira sitting at minus 355. I think Taira gets this job done inside the distance here, and you're looking at inside the distance, sitting around that minus 105 number. I think he gets this done and gets the finish inside the 5 rounds. So I'm going Taira inside the distance at minus 105. Now the next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Azul Zaleski dos Santos minus 195. And on the comeback here, we've got Neil Magny plus 165. Now, this is absolutely a battle for the ages. And when I say that, I mean, these guys are old. We got Neil Magny, who's 37. You've got Dos Santos, 38 years old. Both of these guys are also, coming off of knockout losses. So it's just, really kind of a little bit of a mirror image of both of these guys. They're aging out of the sport and coming off knockouts. Now, Dos Santos, there's no doubt, this guy, can be explosive. He's an explosive capoeira striker. The guy's going to throw a lot of spinning stuff, a lot of explosive stuff. He's going to throw everything with 100% power. And early in this fight, there's no doubt he's going to be dangerous. He's going to be dangerous because he does have that power and his willingness to go out there and throw those big shots overall. And I think he's going to be the better striker with more power when you're looking at this fight overall. And there is going to be opportunities, I think, here for Dos Santos to land some leg kicks here. And that, I think, is a weapon that we have seen pretty much anybody who fights Neil Magny. Neil has no idea what to do. So I do think that is an opportunity here for Dos Santos to find some of the leg kicks and maybe start to really, find the damage and build off of that. But the thing here that I look at here, and one of the biggest weapons here for Neil Magny, and anyone who talked about Neil Magny is probably saying the same thing, is the fact that Neil Magny can weaponize his cardio. This guy can go out there and he can just be relentless, and he'll, you can maybe, lose the first round or whatever it may be, but he's just going to be relentless. He's going to push forward. He can really have the cardio to do it. Now, is he durable? Not really. You know what I mean? Can he be hurt? Yes. But the relentlessness at which he fights is going to be a big point here, where you can go forward, look to get your back up against the fence, cage push you, look for a takedown. If he doesn't get it, it's a rinse and repeat. It's let me do it again. Let me push you up against the fence again. And his clinch work also is really good. So I think that a guy who's, of his ability and his cardio, leaning and really wearing on a guy like Dos Santos, who I think Dos Santos can, really start to struggle, can start to slow down. It's something that I think he absolutely needs to do in this spot here, and keep Dos Santos working. Even in the first round, keep him working. In the second round, keep him working. And I think that's where we can start to see him slow down a little bit as well. And this is going to be, in the Apex cage, I think that this really does, assist Magny in what he does, what his real focus is. And it's going to be cage pushing. It's not going to be, some real sexy way to win the fight, but that's how he does it. And he can really start to slow down some of these fighters overall. Plus you add in, he's going to have the physicality advantages. He's going to have a 7-inch reach advantage, a 4-inch height advantage. And it's not that Magny uses his length very well, but he has the ability to, he can throw a couple front kicks there, throw out a jab, keep Dos Santos at range. He also is going to be a high volume striker. I think that if he can kind of just, lean on him a little bit, push him up against the fence. And if he, if Dos Santos does get away, keep the pressure on him, keep going volume, keep moving forward, and keep him working. Plus that, I think Neil can get some takedowns here. I think that he can look for that if he needs to, just to kind of mix it up a little bit. And plus we got to look at the fact that, Neil is really, since 2022, Neil has only lost to really top level fighters. I mean, he's not losing to, and he's taking fights that he probably even shouldn't be taking. The guys he's losing to is Carlos Prates, Michael Morales, Ian Gary, Shavkat. I mean, these are the future of the division who he's fighting. So, yes, he's losing to them. Yes, he's looked bad, but now he's fighting a fellow aging out fighter, and he's at plus money. So this is really where I think there is opportunity for him here. I do think that the length is going to, I think Dos Santos is going to struggle with that a little bit. And when he crashes the pocket, I think that Magny will have something for him inside the clinch and looking to win positionally here. So at this price here, I do like Neil Magny at plus 165. Next one here we're going to talk about is going to be Kevin Vallejos, he is minus 400. On the comeback here, we've got Danny Silva. He is plus 310. Now, this is a matchup is exciting one. This is definitely one I think that I've circled as just to watch. Like, this is one that I'm like just excited to just kind of see how this all plays out here between these two guys here. Two rising prospects in the division here. You've got Vallejos 15-1. You got Danny Silva, he is 10-1, and this could be one of those ones that's just an absolute fight of the night. They're both going to be swinging. And I think it's going to be very entertaining. Now, one of the things you got to look at here is there's a lot to like about Danny Silva. There definitely is a lot to like about Danny Silva, and especially when you're talking about a plus 310 number next to his name, is that he is a high pressure fighter. He's going to come forward. He's going to just stay in your face. He's going to put out that volume. And that's the biggest thing, is that he is going to be pressuring, and he is going to pour out that volume overall. And he's been, he's done very well with that. And you look at it also is that, he's got the nice boxing. He's got the pressure, stay in your face, push the boxing out, his willingness to go in there and exchange. And also he can mix in takedowns. We've seen that's been something that he has kind of needed to lean on in order to find success and get victories. And, with that kind of being said, he's extremely hittable. He is massively hittable when you're talking about Danny Silva here. I mean, Silva lands, over 7 significant strikes per minute, but he still has a negative striking differential. He still gets hit more than he lands. And even you're talking him over 7 significant strikes per minute. And that's where he's just not defensively sound. He's just not defensively aware. And I think that can work against certain guys that may not have power, not are at a certain level. And I think you kind of look at it over his last 3 fights, it pretty much shows itself when you're looking at just, stats. And then you're also going back and watching the fight. And in his Dana White Contender Series fight against Angel Pacheco, Pacheco landed 200 significant strikes. That's not good. That's not good for Danny Silva. And then you look even his 2 UFC fights. Josh Culibao landed 87 significant strikes to Silva's 45. And what got Silva the split decision victory was the fact that he had 4 takedowns and got some control time. But it's a fight there where probably, Culibao might have, should have won the fight just on that. But either way, he goes out there, he leaned on some of the takedowns and got the victory. But even his other fight against Lucas Almeida, another guy I don't really think is very good, and he landed 74 significant strikes to Silva's 82, and they gave the decision to Danny Silva. Another spot there where if these guys are landing at this high of a clip, consistently, and I think that Vallejos is better than all of those guys. He doesn't have to land, 87 strikes here. I think if he lands, half that, maybe, or maybe, maybe I'm, exaggerating a little bit, but if he lands anywhere near what these guys are landing, he's knocking out Danny Silva. And I know that Danny Silva has not been stopped and all of those things, but he hasn't really faced anyone with this kind of power. If he's allowing guys to go in there and absolutely hit him, and he's willing to take one to give one, Kevin Vallejos is not the guy you want to be doing that with at any point. And, you look at Vallejos here, 15 wins, 11 by knockout here. He is a very aggressive fighter. He's going to come forward. He's going to crash the pocket. He's going to throw big time power here. And I think that's really where this fight goes here. I don't really see Danny Silva being able to absorb the damage that he's going to be taking. I think that Silva can look for takedowns. I don't think he finds much success there. I think that Vallejos is going to cause a lot of damage. You're going to see Silva get hit big time overall throughout this fight, or however long that it lasts. And I am going Kevin Vallejos by knockout, getting off the minus 400 number. You got Vallejos at minus 110. I think that has to be a play here, because I think that I think very highly of Vallejos. I think a lot of people do, and I think this is a spot with a guy who gets hit a lot, and Vallejos doesn't really need to land, a barrage of shots to get the finish. You can just land one and put you out. I like Kevin Vallejos here to get the knockout, minus 110. And the last one here we're going to talk about is going to be Piera Rodriguez. She is minus 215 on the comeback here. We've got Ketlen Souza. She is plus 164. Now, this line does feel wide to me. There's no doubt it does feel wide. But I still do think that Rodriguez is the rightful favorite. But what I do think here is it's a method of victory play. And I think that that's where we can find a little bit better value here than this money line that we're looking at. But there's definitely a path to victory here for Rodriguez, and it's going to be her wrestling and getting that control. And that's really, I think, her bread and butter in this spot. And I think you're seeing her get better at it. And, her grinding style, she's going to push forward. She's going to pressure you. She's going to, cage push you. She's going to just look to kind of get those control. And if she can get the takedowns, that's what she's going to do. She's going to look to gain the top time. She's going to try to win positionally. And I think that's something here that she can really do repetitively and find a lot of success. And one of the things that Souza has, is I think, is she does have some strength. She does have some physicality. But I do think that Rodriguez kind of nullifies some of that. I think that you can see Rodriguez having that advantage here, which I think, again, plays very badly for Souza in this spot. And you've also got Rodriguez coming off a nice win over Josephine Knudsen, which, again, you're seeing the elevation. You're seeing her, kind of really, carve out her path. In the sport for her, and it's looking for the takedowns in the wrestling. She was 8 for 10 on takedowns. She had 10 minutes of control time, and again, seeing those improvements over her 6 UFC fights. She has 21 takedowns. So you're seeing her shoot for that path, and you're seeing her now start to be more and more successful with that particular path. And we've seen on the other side here that Souza can be taken down. There's no doubt she can be, and I thought a red flag on her side is the fact that Angela Hill took her down twice. If Angela Hill, at the end of her career, is able to take you down, I think that's a very bad sign against somebody like Rodriguez, who's going to be more relentless with it, who's going to be more focused on it, have that tunnel vision, and look to find takedowns. And then also even Marnik Mann, got 2 takedowns, on Souza as well. I think that's another bad sign. This is, again, going to be in the Apex cage. I think that really assists Rodriguez here on those takedowns, on her path to victory overall. You've got, Ketlen, who can be flat-footed, who's going to be there, I think, kind of, a little bit more stagnant. And I think these lapses in action for her will allow Rodriguez to look for those takedowns and look for the control time. And I think that Souza can at least survive here. I don't think that it's going to be something where Rodriguez gets her down once and, she's going to be able to submit her. I think we're going to see her find control time, latch on, win positionally, bank rounds. And that's where I'm going with this play here. I'm going Piera Rodriguez by points, and that's sitting around minus 120. And I think that's how she gets the job done. So there we have it for my plays for UFC Vegas 108. If you want to become a client, link down in the description. I already have 3 plays up. A 4% play is already locked in for clients. And let's keep it going. Let's keep cashing. See you next week. Let's cash.